and constructive role in your Lordship House for many years to come.
My Lords, I congratulate the noble Baroness Lady Anderson of Stoke-on-Trent on her maiden speech, but it falls particularly to me to give a welcome to my noble friend Lord Jackson of Peterborough on making his first speech in the House, and what a very good speech it was indeed. He became a London Borough Councillor on the same day that I did back in 1990, but he was politically much more successful and advanced from that position in due course to membership of the House of Commons, where he lost his seat in Peterborough, as he said. But what he failed to say, because he's too modest, that he did actually win the seat 3 times before losing it. And he did so in very difficult and challenging circumstances, because it is, of course, a marginal seat. He has been a great success during his time in the House of Commons. He is a man who has stood up for Brexit consistently during the whole of his political career. He has a hidden skill, which I was unaware of until recently, which is that he has experience from his earlier life as a human resource manager, and indeed has a higher degree in human resources and in the management of human resources. And that no doubt explains his legendary emollients and persuasiveness of character. I welcome him to the House, we all do, and we look forward to further contributions, which I'm sure will be greatly valued by noble lords. Turning, if I may, to the bill, I welcome the fact that we have a government that actually has a strategy for trying to improve our regional development. This is almost revolutionary, so rare is it. We haven't seen this for a very long time. And to that extent, I think the government deserves a great deal of congratulation, and there's been far too much carping on other benches, when in fact we should be saying, well done to the government for having trying to do something for the first time in decades. But I do regret that too much of the ambition, the laudable ambition of the government, is being subverted into bureaucratic ideas about the creation of new layers of government and new mechanisms for government cooperation. This is a stale agenda. What people want, and the Brexit vote, I think, illustrated that, as my noble friend referred to, what people want is empowerment in their lives rather than simply new layers of government or new powers given to existing government. And part of that empowerment means government getting out of their lives rather than telling them what to do. And if we were to address those issues, I think we'd find, through this bill, I think we'd find that it was more fruitful in bringing that about. I'd like to draw attention briefly to a couple of matters that have been raised in the Built Environment Select Committee, which I now chair. The first concerns the register of short-term lets. We've looked at this recently in a short study, and it was the unanimous conclusion of members of the committee that the registration of short-term lets should be optional for local authorities in those areas where it is a particular problem. And we saw no merit at all in the idea of a national register or one that was compulsory, because the fact of the matter, my lords, is that this is a problem, and it can be a severe problem, but in particular areas. It is not a widespread problem. It is found concentrated in particular areas, parts of London and certain parts of the country which have a strong traditional tourist industry. A further point about the infrastructure levy, noble lords have said it mustn't be diverted away from housing. Let's remember what Section 106, the original purpose of Section 106 was. It was to mitigate the effects of development. The concern of the Built Environment Select Committee is that an infrastructure levy might mean that funds are not available to mitigate the effects of a particular development in its locality, because they could be spent in other parts of a local authority. So we need to be careful. It isn't all about affordable housing. There are other things that matter too, including building road connections, street lights and local primary schools. I want to express a degree of concern about street votes. I'm unhappy about the notion of a free-for-all on pavement licences without any consultation with persons, and I admit I am one such, who might live above premises which could benefit from this. I want to raise a particular issue about, as we come to committee, about NSIPs and about the giving of permission to large-scale projects by the government, which never then advance to achieving a DCO. But there is no way of terminating the NSIP, so they continue as a blight on the territory and the adjacent land, even though they don't proceed to development. And finally, I hope that if we are going to have these larger authorities, one benefit that might come from them to alleviate pressure on the minicab industry, which is important in many parts of the country, is that we could try to extend, we could try to transfer to larger authorities the licensing of minicabs so that it's not necessary for firms to apply for multiple licenses in quite small areas through district authorities, but could apply at a higher level with less and achieve the same effect with less bureaucracy. So I look forward to debating some of these issues in committee and beyond. Thank you.
My Lords, can I also congratulate the noble Baroness Anderson and the